At long, at long last, it's here. Henry VIII vs. Robots Part 2, which people have been nagging me to write for ages. Henry and Francois stood, or rather just Henry stood, as Francois was doubled over in pain from his painful nipple. Suddenly, as subtly as a sledgehammer that broke from the traditional stereotype, they were approached. "This doesn't seem funny," said Henry, who had found a peasant named Frank and was busy kicking him around like a football. "So far the story's just creepy. We're being approached and stuff. That's not a good setup for a joke." "Can you stop breaking the fourth wall, young man?" said the guru who had approached. "What fourth wall?" screamed Henry suddenly. "And where'd you come from?" I mean, look deep within yourself and you shall find the answer, young one," the guru, whose name was Professor Pumper Picklestein, muttered. "Doesn't even mean anything," shouted Henry, "and I'm not a young one. In fact, I'm probably older than you are. I'm King Henry. Look, I'm trying my best to sound wise and spiritual, capiche? I failed my Guru Speak exam last year, and if I fail again this year, I have to retake my meditation post GCSE. Do you have any idea how bad my back is after that?" "Nobody cares," shouted Henry, who had moved on from Frank and was busy suplexing a snail called Jeremiah. "Anyway, there's an imminent threat to the world, young one. His name is Destroyus, and he seeks to end the world." "Definitely sounds like a good guy name," said Henry. "So how can I smash up this Destroyus fellow?" "I shall open up a portal to his location through Francois's nipple. Unfortunately, he is gravely incapacitated. You shall have to do this alone, chosen one of the prophecy." "Why am I the chosen one?" screamed Henry, who was eating a hot dog he'd found in Australia, as he'd just flown there at the speed of light and needed a snack. "I want to go home and be king." "You are the chosen one of the prophecy, Henry, as you fulfilled the necessary criteria to be a hero. I could read it to you if you like." Henry stuck his fingers in his ears, but Professor Pumper Picklestein had already started. "Destroyus rises as cities fall. Someone of heart and mind, strong and noble, will answer the call and be the first person I find. Going to eat a cheeseburger, as that's what I always do. It's difficult to rhyme cheeseburger. I've got some gum on my shoe." "Did you like that?" Professor Pumper Picklestein answered. Well, I should say asked, to be fair, but too late. That last bit made literally no sense. And what was that about me being the first person you found? "Look, it's difficult to write fake prophecies. I mean, that's not important to your true goal," Professor Pumper Picklestein said, opening up the portal. "And now use the ritual of Plum Mouse, the god of wasting time writing unfunny stories, then reading them online for zero profit." "Why are you using a banana for the ritual, Professor Pumper Picklestein?" Henry smirked, while killing Jeremiah with his hot dog, which didn't sound like innuendo at all. "Do not call me Professor Pumper Picklestein," bellowed Professor Pumper Picklestein, whose parents absolutely hated him. "Where'd you learn it?" "It says your name multiple times in the text," says Henry. "Toodaloo." Professor Pumper Picklestein howled in anguish as Henry jumped through the King of France's nipple. Henry travelled through the void between all timelines and dimensions, ending up in 1862, where he stepped out. "Where's this Destroyus, then?" Henry muttered under his breath. "That would be me. I am Emperor Destroyus the Unforgiving, and I seek to what? Not seep. Where's my voice gone today? I seek to wipe the slate of this world clean and replace it anew," a deep voice said, low and menacing. I don't know why my brother's just come in and opened the window. It's making this difficult to do. Just bear with me, I've got to say something funny while I shut the window. Banana. Right, Phil. It's left the door open as well. Wow, great villain speech. "Thanks for telling me your whole plan, idiot," said Henry, smiling smugly until he turned round and saw a snail wearing a red and black cape and a helmet with spiked horns on it. "What are you doing here?" gasped Henry in surprise. The snail spoke. "I've come to claim revenge for my fallen brethren, Henry." Henry laughed. "Ha, like you can try. I've been killing snails throughout both of these stories. What's another one?" "Shall destroy this pitiful land and create a perfect new one where my cousins are free to live in peace," Destroyus boomed, pulling down his mask and readying a laser that had been formed by the ritual Plum Mouse. Henry looked doomed to the point he wet his pants in fear and screamed for his mum instead of, moving out of the way. "Not like this! Not like this! Mummy!" screamed Henry, even though at this point Destroyus couldn't turn around to fire his ultra-slow laser. Henry then realised his last words should be a bit cooler, so he appeared more dignified. I mean, I am the King of England, and my crown shall never die. At this point, a feminine voice called, "Derek, your tea's ready." "Mum!" shouted Destroyus, or rather Derek, the laser disappearing as he lost concentration. "I told you not to call me Derek in front of my enemies. I go by Emperor Destroyus the Unforgiving. It's my supervillain name." His voice was decidedly much more high-pitched now. He fiddled with his voice synthesizer to fix it. "Henry, you may have escaped this time, but just you wait. I'll destroy you after I've had my dinner with my mother." "Bye, Derek," Henry mocked, walking away. "Do not call me Derek," yelled Derek as he headed into his house to enjoy some bangers and mash. 2 days later, Henry woke up and looked around. He knew something was wrong, but he couldn't quite tell what. Then it hit him. The entire world was on fire, and robots were flying around everywhere, shooting lasers at people and refusing to do their taxes. The guy named Keith from the last chapter with a cheeseburger was vaporized by a laser, killing him. He was fine though. "Looks like those robots from the title have finally decided to show up," muttered Henry. "This whole situation's a bit inconvenient. Go and find Derek and show him what for." As Henry marched off, whistling "Shape of You" by Ed Sheeran, he was stopped by a shuriken thrown at his feet. 6 ninjas popped into existence right in front of him. "Who are you peasants?" "Oh right, I recognise you from the history books." "We are your wives from alternate universes," shouted Catherine of Aragon, who had a mechanical arm cannon replacing her left arm. "And we come to kill you on His Majesty Destroyus' orders," boomed Anne of Cleves. "You have hurt us all in the past, Henry," said Anne Boleyn, who had 6 fingers and was covered in bolognese. The others murmured a bit and agreed, as they couldn't really say anything that the others hadn't already said. "You want to be my wives, even though I'm gay?" said Henry. "Oh well, the history book said I married you, so it probably happened." Catherine Howard took her head off and bounced it like a basketball. "You have wounded all our hearts, Henry." "It's kind of what I said, Catherine," said Anne Boleyn. "Oh yeah," said Catherine. "Look, it's nice that you all want to kill me, but I've got better stuff to do," said Henry. "Also, if you were real ninjas, you'd probably disguise yourself as commoners and try to kill me from a distance, rather than dressing in those bright ninja outfits and introducing yourselves." "How dare you accuse us of not being real ninjas?" screamed Catherine Parr. "We all got at least grade 7s in our ninja GCSEs. "There really does seem to be a GCSE for everything these days," said Henry, who had just started playing on an electric guitar that he'd stolen from a guy named Patrick, who had a blue beard and many shattered dreams. "We'll kill you for that," yelled Jane Seymour. "Thought you were going to kill me anyway," said Henry. "Well, we'll kill you to death this time. We'll kill you twice." "It's not how death works, but okay," said Henry, who smacked Anne Boleyn over the head with the electric guitar. The others tried to slash Henry's throat at that moment, but suddenly the same unicorn who had smashed through Henry's window in the last chapter butted in and killed all the wives with its magic rainbow hellfire. My voice is so bad. Hellfire of Doom. "What was that for, Horatio?" grumbled Henry. "You're making the writer look bad with all these cheap, lazy storytelling tricks." "Oh well, I'm sorry I saved you from certain death," snarked Horatio. "So you should be," shouted Henry, missing the sarcasm. "There's going to be an epic fight scene." "You'll get an epic fight scene later in the story," said Horatio. "But I want one now," Henry hollered, stamping his foot and throwing himself on the floor as robots flew over him, firing lasers. "There's some robots over there," said Horatio, pointing at what Henry had just seen. "You can have your epic fight scene now." Muttered my voice and my eyesight. "Fine," muttered Henry, "but no saving me in future without my permission. That is an order from your king." Henry stormed off and made his way to the city, which was completely on fire. "Nice battlefield," said Henry as a robot landed. The robot was massive, but very small, and it wielded an imaginary claw as a weapon. It slashed Henry with the imaginary claw, going completely through his body, which gave him a small bruise. Upon closer inspection, the robot looked oddly familiar. It was the corpse of Assassinate the King, augmented and reanimated with cybernetic parts. Not speaking, it closed in on Henry and cut his head off, breaking it into pieces. Luckily for Henry, he was clearly still alive and mouthing off to the robot, only feeling a bit bruised. "This description's pretty disgusting," said Henry. "I thought this was a funny story." "And why'd you break my head? It's going to take ages to put it all back together." Assassinate waited for half an hour while Henry started putting his head back together. At that moment, Destroyus appeared. Why are you waiting for him? Boomed Destroyus. Actually, why are you just fighting him one at a time? Because it gives Henry a fair chance, said a small, pathetic robot called Barney, who had recently gone through a bit of divorce. He immediately got zapped and dismantled. Anyone want to say anything else? Asked Destroyus menacingly. Thought not, he replied, although a robot called Sam had just been about to point out that lunch was meant to have started 10 minutes ago and it was Cheese Friday, so the other robots manned by different supervillains would have gotten to the Stilton first. We don't play fair, we're the bad guys. Oh, hi, Derek, Henry said, his head together and on his neck at last. Do not call me Derek, screeched Derek. I am Destroyus the Unforgiving. Okay, Derek, said Henry. Derek stamped his foot, or he would have if he actually had feet. As it stands, he was forced to just lift his side up a little bit and bring it down. Code 1D10T self-destruct. Assassinate proceeded to blow up, annihilating the entire city as Derek and most of the other robots flew out of the blast, and Henry was knocked back. Horatio was there to catch Henry, and Henry began to complain about being rescued, but a dramatic wind blew from behind him as he prepared to do battle. He looked majestic, kingly even. Maybe he'd learned a few lessons from the whole experience. Maybe he'd matured as a person and become the king that England really needed. Maybe he was a hero at last. Nah, no lessons for me, said Henry. Servant, you can stop the fan now. The servant, who had been standing there for 40 years blowing a fan, was relieved as he finally turned it off. His arm hurt and he needed a wee. Blackbird flew in and started to fight like he always did. Whatever you're fighting for, I'll destroy it in 200 years' time, he whooped. Let's win this, yelled Henry, flying after Derek as the world shattered and burned. Part 3 when I can be bothered.